Today we're going to be drilling down on a couple of questions. What lifestyle results am I seeking from business or an investment? What are the best industries for my investment properties? And what type of network do I need in order to grow my investment? I am Mish Daniel from Revolve Commercial. I started out at the age of 22, amassed a reasonable sized portfolio, had to leave it all behind, moved to Australia when I was at the fresh young age of 48, and have started all over again building that portfolio. I would like to introduce you to my very special guest today. Now, I've known Guy for a couple of years, and I can tell you, a better person in business for advice you cannot get. Guy Wilson, formerly co-founder of one of Australia's largest software development companies, now driven to help aspiring entrepreneurs and employees to progress by making the right connections. Guy is passionate about gliding, snow skiing, travel, and he is passionate about helping other people and business. I strongly relate to those who go into business seeking greater degree of control and financial independence. Guy once took the huge plunge to move from employment to business ownership. A very scary move back then. It doesn't need to be too scary today. And here we have Guy Wilson. Guy, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so looking forward to having a chat with you about making things happen.
Absolutely. Wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, Mish. And it's wonderful to have been associated with you over the years. I admire you so much for your spirit of what you do. And it's the willingness that I believe is the magic ingredient for just about anyone to achieve the results.
Thank you, Guy. Thanks. That's we when you and I get chatting, we can chat forever, which can get pretty dangerous. We're going to be speaking mainly about business, really. And Guy and I were talking a little bit earlier, and the bridge between business and commercial real estate. And I think that the biggest understanding is that your commercial real estate is driven by the business that's in it to a large degree. So Guy is an absolute whiz when it comes to building businesses, building relationships, and I think this is going to be an absolute asset having him. We've spoken before, and you've often said deciding which business you go into is always very important to ask, what is the lifestyle or the results that you're seeking from a business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, too many people, I think, get all excited about a particular idea or business, and then you'll see it. We all know it. We can observe the signs of people who then become slaves to that business. It's that the business owns them; they don't own the business. So if you are more careful about it and you think about it in advance, and one of the things that you're doing, Mish, which I highly admire and recommend to people as part of their plan, is recurring or passive income. So if you can actually have multiple sources of income, but in particular employment, but do something on the side of that, right? And gradually build that up. That will help you to achieve, in the end, the lifestyle that you really do want, because it's a matter of time as well as money. There's no point, in fact, in having lots of money if you don't actually have, if you can't settle back a little bit and know that money keeps on coming in, right? So yes, the type of business is critically important, and that changes over time. And I'm sure that's the case with commercial or real estate generally. Things do change and areas change, and that's why it's important to get someone like you who knows the field so well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's and not necessarily me. I mean, there are 100 professionals out there. When people do come on board with us, we introduce them to various different professionals to help the process to go along. But it's all about that journey. I think that's the most important thing,
It is.
And it's about the network. It's about the network that you build around you, not only in singularly what you're doing, but in collaboration with loads of people You were very inspirational in my life when it came to collaboration and how to work collaboration. And I know that is one of your fondest, let's say, successes.
No, absolutely. Because somebody sent me through a fantastic link, and the title of it was "You're not building a career, you're building your network." And I tell you what, that is so important, because if you're building a business or a career, if that you want to pivot and change and move into another area, and people don't know you, they just know the business, then it's very, very difficult. So, yes, you're right. I'm such a big believer in network first and ideas second. So you don't have to worry too much if you actually just relax. If you've got the luxury of not having to make a business work because maybe you've got employment or whatever. If you can actually just build your network, you'll discover ideas, you'll meet wonderful people and great connections, and you'll have a lot of fun doing it. And these days it's never easy. It's easier now than it's ever been, because people accept that we do this kind of thing. We do it online. We don't have to meet. Like when I met you, it was the entrenched view was you have to meet physically, right, with people, otherwise you won't build a relationship with them. Well, COVID changed that for the better, actually.
Yes and no. I mean, I think there's something very magical in meeting.
Oh, it's lovely to meet people, for sure, but there's no doubt about that. But it's a combination, So I started a business which was around spreadsheets. And the very first spreadsheet that was ever invented was like most things when they first get invented. It was just it was discarded as being irrelevant, basically. I mean, you wouldn't believe it at the time, and it was certainly not even. It was promoted as a scientific application, not a business application. My brother and I said, "Oh, wait a minute, this has got amazing potential." So we started to, because both of us had an accounting background, so we started to go around and talk to people about it. And I was just amazed at the change resistance. It was a good thing as a young age. It's quite a good thing to discover change resistance, because it doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means you need to try harder.
and you did that very successfully, didn't you?
We did that very successfully.
Based on the most fundamental spreadsheets.
Yeah, absolutely. One little tip, I would give people is, if you get somebody credible on side with no matter what it is that you are doing, if it's new and different, and you get a believer who is credible in the marketplace, that can change everything. So in our case, it was Myer department stores, right? So they had a team of people at the time. So they had a team of 7 people, and they had these big white spreadsheet physical pads. And they had people with calculators, and they were putting down numbers like this, and they were adding them up. And one person would pass their pad to the next person to do a consolidation.
Wow.
To the next thing. Anyway, so we convinced the lady who ran that department to give it a go with our thing. And it ended up that they reduced the team to 1. But more importantly, the numbers were accurate, because it was so, when you're doing things manually, people doze off and whatever, and they make mistakes, and so the numbers were not accurate. So we helped, and so then she was just so delighted that other people that we've been trying to convince, well, maybe they have got something, and then they go and talk to Myers, and on it went from there, type of thing. So interesting. And then our second venture was just here. This one here, we started a company that it was a forerunner to an organization called SAP. It may not mean anything to you, but it's one of the biggest software companies in the world now. And
SAP, it's an accounting software, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's management information software. So we developed a product from scratch with the money that we'd made from the consultancy and borrowed from the banks.
As you do.
As you do. Well, back then. Mind you, I highly advise that you don't need to do that anymore, because I'm not into taking that kind of risk, Anyway, so we started this company. This is well before the internet. and that's how it looked. It looked, like that was the back room of the building that we had. And whatever. So our clients were large service-based organisations, banks, government departments, and so forth. But once again, when we first started, no one wanted to take a risk on us, and eventually we found a guy in one company who did. It was a very big company, and once again, it was the same story as the Maya story, where other people followed on from there. So you don't give up. You've got to persist.
Absolutely. You can never give up. I mean, it's exactly the same. If you really want to reach your goals, just keep kicking that ball.
That's right.
Something about. So the second one, was it also numbers based? I'm assuming it was.
Well, because we had so much experience with the spreadsheets, right? What we decided to do is we developed from ground up our own spreadsheet. Like we wrote the code right from the so it's like almost developing Excel. But then on top of that, we incorporated it into a management information system so that what the people of the time really liked was the fact that they could develop their own reporting, dig into the numbers, pull out whatever numbers that they wanted, and it was integrated, in there. Number one. Number two, because they had access to us, if they wanted something that wasn't there, they could talk to us, because basically we sold the product in the first place for X dollars, but then we charged 15% per annum for them
consulting.
And they could basically have whatever they wanted within a year, because it added to the product usually anyway, sort of thing. So that was kind of how we did it. Yeah.
And passive income. What more can you ask for?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we when in the end, all of our expenses were covered by what we call software maintenance. That's what we called it in those days. So any sales that we made were cream on top of that.
That's absolutely amazing. And from there, you went on to building businesses.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. From then I went into really building businesses, and we sold this business in 2000 to a subsidiary of Telstra, which sort of gave us a fair bit of cash, enabled me to move to the best place in the world. No, did I say that? Queensland, my father. I turned into my father. He always to say, you've got to come to Queensland to the coast. It's awesome. So I've been here for 25 years, and back in 2017 is when we started the Connect Collaborative, because the four things that drive me: memories, relationships, and experiences. And the fourth value for me is making a difference in the lives of others. And the lives that I've chosen to make a difference in are people like me and you who want to get out there, have a go. How can we help you? How can we make it easier for you? And the way that I believe is one of the best things you can possibly do is just get involved in a network of people that are high value people on the one hand. On the other hand, they're caring and willing to help you if you're willing to pay it forward, if you like. So that's where we started the Connect Collaborative. It was just physical presence. Then it moved on to being able to do things globally and online. And most recently, Safer Entrepreneurship, which is all about helping people in the corporate environment to move safely from that corporate environment to start something on the side that they can gradually build up. And that would also play into commercial property as an example. I was talking to you earlier about a guy that I've met recently who's fabulously wealthy, but just a down-to-earth guy, and he's done it all with commercial property. I mean, in the last 10 years, he's got a lot of commercial properties. He has not got one that's ever missed a payment, right? Not one.
Wow, that is. He's the bloke that lost all his property at the age of 50.
Absolutely. Yep.
And has come all the way back in again and doubled and quadrupled what he had before.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the thing is,
only on commercial property.
Only on commercial property. That's right. He he did have other stuff other than commercial property, right? But after that, he focused on commercial property, which is great. And I think the main thing there is you and we admire people like that, and we listen to them. Too many people, I think, today blast off on their own and try to do stuff on their own without listening to the wisdom of people who've been around the block a few times. And why would you reject that when it doesn't cost you anything? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You know what? Get it from experience. You mentioned it earlier that the most important things to you are memories, relationships, and experiences. I was going to ask you a couple of questions just around yourself and how you've built, your wealth and your passive income and that. And what is the most important advice you would give to aspiring entrepreneurs, investors?
I would say network first and ideas second. Go slowly, slow it down. There is no rush unless you make it a rush. And you make it a rush if you rush into things and you have to make it work. That can be disastrous. But if you build your network, I always say this to my kids: network first, and you will discover the ideas. You will refine the ideas. You will bounce your ideas off other people. You will just make the right contacts to make things work. So that would be my biggest advice: network first, ideas second. I read something the other day which says that the research shows that only 28% of success, and I don't know how they measure it, but only 28% of success comes down to the idea. The rest of it comes down to factors other than the idea. Yes, you've got to have a good idea, but that does not guarantee you success in any shape or form.
Absolutely. While you're talking, I'm thinking about, I was chatting to somebody about doing an MBA, very successful guy. And I said to him, "Why would you want to go and do an MBA? I mean, really, you're very successful, you're well connected." And he said to me, "Mish, because I'm wanting to be connected to a higher level of type of people." Yes. So by doing the MBA, it exposes him to a whole nother, level. If you had your life, what would you do differently?
What I would do differently is I wouldn't see the need to take enormous risk. A lot of people that I come across are always talking about, how am I going to get venture capital to get my thing off the ground? Well, and they're almost excited when they do get it. But I think to myself, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. You owe somebody else money.
Yep.
And it's all right if you're doing it for, like, borrowing for a commercial property or something like that. That's a different kettle of fish altogether.
That's bricks and mortar.
Yeah, that's right. But if you're borrowing for a startup or an idea, or to pay the wages of software developers, that can be a very dicey proposition.
Yeah, it sure can. That is risk without any tangible. And having said that, I mean, there are lots of businesses that have taken that risk and they have succeeded.
They have, but there's a lot more that haven't.
Of course, you don't hear about those. You don't see those on Facebook.
No, you don't, do you? And that's
and Instagram and all of those.
People go, well, I want to be Elon Musk, or I want to be whatever. No, if you actually think about it, it's what you said at the beginning. Sit down, think about what you want, and gradually ideally develop a passive or a recurring income out of something up to the point that it replaces your current income. So, and then goes beyond that, because in the end,
strategy.
It makes sense, and I think commercial property certainly fits into that sort of bundle too, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly has worked for me and for many of my clients and many of the people that I see, ongoing. And a lot of people ask me, when is a good time to invest? Well, in my life, every day is a good time to invest. Doesn't really matter what's happening in the market, because the market it's like an ocean. It's constantly moving, so it's up and down all the time.
Yeah.
But you said something very early on about risk and reward, and I said bricks and mortar. Now, I have invested in business and businesses, a multitude of businesses through my years. However, I've always held real estate on the side. So I've always run my businesses and held real estate. And the bridge between the two is, running a business or owning a commercial property, very much the same. And I think I've been successful in running commercial properties because I've had successes in running businesses.
Yes.
And you need to have the fundamental business, I would say, acumen or knowledge. And I'm using the words fundamental with good reason, because it's very good to know how to start, what the numbers are, what you're looking at, to understand yields, cap rates, projections, and all of that. And I know, again, you're a genius at this because you started it when you were 3.5 years old, as we saw and spoke about earlier. But for many people coming into this, I like to make it as simplistic as possible. And I use what I call cheat sheets. We use heaps of cheat sheets on a daily basis.
I don't know the numbers. You can't just wing it type of thing. You can't just, I mean, it's a bit like somebody sort of says, well, they're going to give me this much yield for my property. Well, you need to look at how long are they going to be around? And know a little bit about their trend and all that kind of stuff. So that's where I think, you can, why just getting the knowledge is great. This chap that I was talking about, who's in his 80s now, he's talking about industrial property and the sorts of thought process that went through. He leased one of these properties to people who refurbish train wheels, like the
Wow.
the undercarriage of trains. And he said they had to import massively heavy equipment and dyes and things like that. And he said, I know they're not going anywhere in a hurry because
That's it. There's the key.
to move that, I also know that they're in a business that's what's the word? Almost like a monopoly in a sense because of what they do. There's not a lot of competitors around it. I also don't increase their rents much over time, so there's no need for them to even think about moving somewhere else, type of thing, right? So just stay. I just thought that was kind of wise advice.
Yeah, that is very, very good advice because a lot of people come into this, and the first thing they want to do is increase the rent. And I always say, hold your horses there. You got to realize that when you're in business and when you own commercial properties, that your business partners are your tenants.
Correct.
And you need to work with them. And of course, it's got to be reasonable. CPI or an increase or a rent review after a while. We always say it's got to be within reasonable, and it's got to be a win-win situation for both.
Yeah, absolutely, because they want to love you. You want them to love you, type of thing. And I'm sure it's just all in the way you think. Sometimes you think it's some geniusly complicated thing, but it's actually not. It's just patience and
relationships, right?
That's right. Relationship, really.
You said it earlier. It's all about those relationships, nurturing those relationships. And I think at Revolve Commercial, what we've become very well known for is that nurturing. Nurturing. We like to nurture our clients. We like to nurture our tenants. We offer a secondary service, which is commercial realty management. So in other words, once the client's been through the process of having the baby, acquiring the property, it's always, who's going to manage it? And they'll throw it out to one of the big brands, and they're never happy with them. So by default, we started commercial realty management, and we consider the nurturing. And as a result of that, the better you look after your tenants, the better they're going to look after.
Yeah. And I imagine that, let's just take a hypothetical. Let's just say that you built a network and you've got a tenant that somebody that you can introduce to them that's going to help their business enormously. They're going to be forever grateful to you, number one. Number two, they're going to do better. So they're going to be able to be your tenant for a lot longer.
Spot on. Yes. Yeah. And that's exactly how we look at it as well. We currently have a tenant that's sort of battling in business a little bit. And we've recently introduced them to somebody who can help them out with the business. They're getting on a little bit in life. And in fact, what they were thinking of doing is just shutting it down and walking away. And I said to them, why would you do that? You've got a going concern. You've worked for 40 years on this business. There's somebody else that's coming into the market that would love to step into your boots and be prepared to pay you for it. So instead of just shutting it down, $20,000, $30,000 is more than just closing the doors.
Oh, yeah.
People don't realize the value of their businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Because someone else will see, a younger person who's going to see other possibilities and have more energy to do it, sort of thing. Yeah. So, yeah.
And it's a going concern. It's got a clientele. It's already got a name in the market. It's already had all its marketing and everything done for it. So they're great opportunities. So we really love working with both our clients as well as our tenants in the same.
One thing too, Mish. I mean, I'm not an expert by any means, but I like commercial property more than residential, particularly with what I see coming into the future. I'm not down on it, but I just think residential is potentially a lot more difficult than commercial. Am I right?
It is. Commercial, look, there's the pros and cons. I think in commercial, there's a lot more to do when acquiring a property. There's a lot more in terms of your due diligence. There's so many more areas. And in fact, I popped a couple of questions up that we're looking at that you need to be asking when doing, when purchasing a property. How long has the business been there? How long have the tenants themselves been in those premises? Is it a sustainable business, like you were talking about? Train wheel repairs and chassis. Is it a business that will be around in the future? Well, I think trains are most certainly going to be around for the next 30, 50 years, if not longer.
Yep.
And of course, to look at the ledgers, do they pay on time? So there's so many areas to look into when purchasing a commercial. So that is, I think, what scares people, and we go out looking for the red flags. Whereas buying a residential property, you've got bricks and mortar and you've got the area,
Yeah.
So
I think so. And I think it also comes back to what we were talking about earlier, and that's slow it down. There's no, don't act. It's worth doing all of that work before you leap.
Absolutely. So important. I popped a tenancy ledger, just a snapshot of a tenancy ledger. You can see the numbers in 10 minutes. You can analyze this in 10 minutes. And we transfer that onto spreadsheets, and we work backwards. We work the numbers to make sure that whatever the asset is or the business is, reasonable and going in the right direction. Because of what we're doing on spreadsheets and spreadsheets is one of the most vital parts of business and commercial real estate. I'm actually just going to pop a little commercial in to say that the next podcast that I'm going to do is all about spreadsheets, and it is just going through all the different types of spreadsheets available and that you would require to make the right decisions from a financial point of view to see whether the property that you're buying is the right property. It's all about the numbers.
The good thing about that is you can get pro formas. So if you get spreadsheets that have things that you might not otherwise have thought of. So if you start building a spreadsheet from scratch, you may leave some things out of it. But I'm sure that you have a lot of formats and so forth that cover a lot of different things. Would I be right in saying that?
Absolutely. It's, what, we've been doing this for such a long time that all those we use those pro formas. We offer those pro formas to our clients. If you want to check out and just run the basic numbers on your properties, on your acquisitions, this is the way to do it. And we make it simple. You can do this on your calculator. You can do this on your phone. It's so simple. It's one of the quickest calculations where you're looking at your rental. You're dividing your rental by your value of your property. So in this case, your value of your property, let's look at that 6%. Okay, at this stage, let's pretend we don't know what the 6% is. We know what the rental is. So your rental is 150,000 and the client is the seller's asking for 2.5 million. That's going to give you a yield of 6%. Okay, so what we do is we have our little cheat sheet, which is the yield calculator, and we dump the 150 into right across the board. And when we're negotiating, we have the sheet in front of us. And as the agent's saying, no, client's going to be wanting 2.7, I can immediately see it's a 5.5% yield without even working it out and be saying, mate, the cap rate is at 6.3%. Why would we be buying a property in that area? So it's all part of the negotiation. This is just simplifying it. And if you've got these cheat sheets in front of you when you're negotiating that property, man, you sound like a genius, because
Yeah.
the agent suddenly thinks, how did you work that out so fast?
Well, and that's the interesting thing too, isn't it, Mish? That commercial property is largely determined by the rent. The value is determined by, to a large extent, by the rent. Not so much with commercial property. With residential property. It seems to be valued by the emotions of the people who want to buy in that area and all that. But whereas commercial property is a different proposition altogether, typically, isn't it?
Correct. Commercial property is all about the numbers. It's all about the rent. It's about the speed of doing things faster, smarter, better. And it really is a commercial decision, when you are buying commercial properties. Guy, one quick question. I'd love to get your views on this. In your opinion, what is the best industry or business to be making money right now?
What you're doing is about investment. In essence, do you know? Well, it's about knowing businesses and what have you, but I imagine you're talking to investors. So investors need to make money. They're either going to make money through their professions or having a business themselves. So if you're talking about having a business yourself, I believe that there is massive potential in tech. Not tech, in websites, I would say. So a lot of people don't realize it, but they might have a particular interest in something. I'll just give you an example. I've recently met a guy who's a digital marketer, been in digital marketing all his life, but he's always had a passion for animals, dogs, pets, that sort of stuff. So he decided, okay, will I go out and develop a website around pets? Now, what I've been told is that if there's already a lot of those sorts of websites out there, don't bother, because they've got the authority and stuff like that. And he has shown that that's not true. If you've got an interest in something like that, you can actually do the research, which gets back to your point about property. Do the research to see whether or not, how many people are searching for this kind of thing. What could you do? What could you contribute? How can you describe to pet owners how to train their puppies or whatever it happens to be? And that might be your area of interest. You could actually make money out of it these days. So I think, and not have a lot of expense, and gradually ramp it up with Google ads and things like that over time. But you don't need to do that right at the very beginning. So that's one area. And maybe it's because I come from a tech background, but I just think it's tech as a time its time has come for average people, because more and more is done that way. And I just think there are, you have to be careful about how you do it, a bit like property, but it's something that you can do to develop as a business, if you like. There are things that you can do. So I think the best kinds of businesses are businesses, first of all, you start out on the side. In other words, if possible, you keep your current sources of employment or income, and then you start to experiment and build things up on the side, and then you have a vision to create passive income from any kind of business, but also from property and so forth. That would be my strategy, but it's not one that people pursue. It's an all or nothing, borrow as much as you can from a venture capitalist, take huge risks, but it really isn't necessary. And you've got to think about, well, what risk am I putting my family here? I've got a huge debt. What if it doesn't work? I mean, those things can work, but I'd much rather things that, well, if it doesn't quite work, it won't matter too much.
Yeah, well, if you didn't have it before, then you can carry on doing what you're doing. But I love what you said there about and it's following your passion.
Yeah, you can follow your passion with, like I said, with the pet thing, for example. Yes. If that was your passion, you could do that, and put your heart and soul into it, and people would know that because of what you've written there and what have you. And then how do you make money out of that? Well, dog owners, dog walkers, and pet companies, food, they all advertise, that's how you make recurring income. And because you've got the eyeballs, because you're providing value to people who are visiting your website, so there's other people that are in association with that where you can make money.
And this is often we see this, when we're looking at properties, we see startup businesses, and some of them are good, some of them not so good, but we always give them the chance. We always have a look at them to see how long have they been there, whether they're sustainable, whether they're paying their rents. We look at their ledgers, because you can't really tell whether a business is good or not, and whether it's going to be sustainable. And bearing in mind, when you're buying a commercial property, you're effectively buying that lease, you're buying that rental. So you've got to make sure that everything's good and solid, within it. I think the flavor of the year or the couple of years have been, everybody says, buy medical, or allied medical. Yes, allied medical's great. I can tell you, I've had a couple of allied medical in my properties, and they haven't all been fantastic, so it really does go down to drill down into the numbers, check your spreadsheets, drill down hard, and if you don't understand, ask and ask again.
Well, it's also a little bit like the train thing. You and I and most people listening to this could understand that. Do you know what I mean? Like Warren Buffett says, if you don't understand it, don't go near it. If you can understand it and it makes complete sense, then that's probably a good thing. And
it's the basic understanding of it. Anyway, it's
yes.
You just need to really know the basics of it. You don't have to understand the high level of it.
Yep, exactly.
But
right.
I think I am just so delighted. Thank you so much for joining us. I've thoroughly enjoyed this time with you, chatting to you. And like I said before, you and I could chat for 3 hours. And I know we have.
Good. But you know what? I hope, Mish, that if people are listening to this that have a real desire to do something in life and do it as safely as possible and what have you, will have gained something from this, have a path forward. I think it's really wonderful to have inspiration, and I think you're an inspiration for people, and some hope. I love to try and put hope into people's lives that the people who really want to do better can do better, and the ones that want to do better and are willing to do something about it, and not, do the hard yards to some extent, because there's no get rich quick.
No, it never is. It never is. Unfortunately, as we both know, starting all over again. How I've learned that now for the third time. I'm doing it.
Yes. And you're the living proof that it can be done. But you also have to roll up your sleeves and go, well, that's happened. Now I've got to get on and have a plan to
make it happen.
So I'm hoping that, a lot of these sorts of things, I think, I wouldn't sit on something like this unless I could get value from it. I'm hoping that people have got some at least hope that, well, wait a minute, some of the things that have been said here give me hope that I can achieve the things that I want to achieve, or help me to think a little bit differently about things or whatever. Yeah.
Well, Guy, just speaking to you is an absolute inspiration. You are an inspiration to me. You have been for many years, and I really thank you for that. I thank you for what you've taught me about the collaboration and just learning to work with people differently. It really, I think it has been the secret sauce to many people's lives, and you've touched on every one of those. So I want to thank you. Now I've put some details on the screen, and your Gmail account. If anybody would like to reach out to you, Guy is an absolute wealth of knowledge. I've introduced quite a couple of people to him that have gone on to, let's say, been supremely successful through what Guy has taught them and shared with them. So if there's anything that you want to know particularly about business, Guy's speciality is really building business, working in network, collaboration, really fantastic stuff. So reach out to Guy Ralph Wilson at gmail.com. That's Guy Ralph Wilson at gmail.com. There's something that we haven't really touched on, which is safer.net, spelled SAFER.net. And
Yep.
this is an initiative, it's a new venture that
Yes,
sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah, yes, it is. It's a joint venture between myself and Toby Naji, and we're both entrepreneurs. Toby has also taught entrepreneurship at universities for over 10 years, and our goal is to help people move into entrepreneurship more safely. That's as it said. And the way that starts is very simple. It's not complicated. It's just have a chat. Let's sit down and talk about what you want to achieve. I'll have a half-hour chat. Toby will have a half-hour chat, or if we're too busy, we'll get somebody else involved in doing that, and really just have a chat about what do you want to achieve. Not so much what business or, yes, if you've got a business, we can help you with that, whatever aspect of it is. But more particularly, I'm interested in helping people think about clarify what they want themselves, and how to move forward from here in terms of a path, not an absolute do this, but as go down this path. For example, I'm always pretty much going to advise that people build their networks to start off with. So that's a very safe thing to do.
As we know.
as we know. And maybe, a little bit uninspiring from the point of view, it's not going to get an immediate result, but you'll be amazed what you'll discover, who you'll meet, and what inspiration you'll get. And it's just wonderful not to be too fixed on any ideas to begin with. If you want to go into and just examine a lot of things and think about a lot of things and how they might fit in. So that's what Safe Entrepreneurship's all about. It's about just having a chat. It's a not-for-profit. There's no sell. There's nothing to nothing to sell. All we would do is just have a chat with you and try and help you. Sometimes it might even be, look, I don't think entrepreneurship's a good thing for you. It's like, you know what I mean? That might be a good thing too. Who knows?
Yes, and sometimes it is. It's like somebody said to me the other day, in terms of investing. They said, Mish, because I pulled out of a very big investment deal, and I spoke to a couple of people about it that were going to do it with me, and one of the guys said to me, Mish, it's a very wise decision, and one of your biggest successes, one of your biggest profits is sometimes turning down what might look fantastic, is having the guts to turn it down when your gut is actually saying, don't go there.
No.
Your head saying, yes, I want to do it, but your heart saying it's not for you.
Yeah, and at the very least, me, you, and everybody wants a bit of somebody to bounce ideas around with, and be a bit of a mentor to them, and and go, just help them work through things. I'm always happy to do that with people if they are willing.
Yes. I mean, you're wonderful at that. You really are.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, people have to be willing. They have to be willing to put in the extra hard yards, because you can't go, what, I'm going to trade a job for a business. No. Do start out by doing it on top of your job.
Yes, start like it.
That's right, on the side. Yes.
A little bit like what I said. I started doing this when I was 22 years old, and 30 odd years in doing commercial on the one side, while I carried on doing my work, while I carried on working.
Yeah. That's right.
That's the way
you've done exactly that. I mean, and who hasn't? I don't think I can't point to many successful people who haven't done something like that. I mean, there's a few, but not many.
So, Guy, thank you again for joining us. With regards Revolve Commercial, if you're not already on the website, then go to our website, which is revolvecommercial.com.au. We offer various different products, lots of freebies, lots of giveaways. We have a wealth grow plan, which is an 8-step process to just seeing whether you would qualify for a commercial property. I recommend that you go ahead and do it. You can just play around with it if you decide not to anyway. We have the VIP Investor Picks of the month, If you're not on that and you'd like to know what's happening in the market, it just tells you what the trends are, where the cap rates are, what the yields are, and we'll give you a selection of between 15 to 20 properties to pick from and to discuss. We've also got a due diligence list, which is giving you the foundations of what you need for due diligence when looking at a commercial property. And what some of our clients do is they buy the VIP, the full comprehensive list and the due diligence list. And if you have enough knowledge, you can actually go out there and purchase your own property just using those two tools alone. We've got heaps of case studies, blogs, podcasts, past events, replays. Feast your eyes, get out there, get educated, learn as much as you can, and reach out if you'd like our help. We have a QR code on the screen if you're looking at the screen right now. Go ahead and click on that. Otherwise, just go to revolvecommercial.com.au.